Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. Happy New Year. First podcast of the year. And I'm ready fucking. No, I'm just kidding. I am kind of. I forgot to do a couple things, but I don't care. Because I said from the get go that I was going to kind of wing it this week because there is not a lot going on. And I just didn't want to have to make something out of nothing. So there's a few things going on and a few things happening in the news for combat sports. But for me, I just wanted to kind of, I don't know, change it up a little bit. You know, I do kind of the same format all the time. And it works. I mean, I like it. I hope you guys like it. I try to keep it structured for the most part so that I can have a structure, I guess, you know. And I don't do like, I guess I do segments, you know. I do like combat sports news, and then I go into the different fights and the different events in general. So I do try to keep it structured, but sometimes that limits me, I guess. And I guess I try too hard to stick to that. And it is difficult because if I don't structure things and I don't prep, then I have to kind of scramble to get things to work. I like being able to touch a button and have things happen. So that's kind of how it works. You know, I touch a button and my music starts, my intro starts, my recording starts. I have everything. That's what I have this stream deck here for. And that's what I use it for. I paid good money for it. I've invested a lot of decent money for a lot of my stuff. So I like to make sure I make use of it. And that's one of the ways I make use of it. Plus, it makes things easier on me. It takes some pressure off me so I can focus on actually talking about things on the podcast. So, but today I didn't do much of that. I did a very little prep work. So little that I got too complacent and forgot to do my thumbnail. But I don't care. I can add it in later. It's not a big deal. But you know, the thumbnail is informative. So it tells you what you're about to watch. So I kind of hate that I forgot that, but that's okay. It wouldn't be me if I didn't forget something or mess something up. And again, I hold myself accountable. So I like to make sure that I, you know, I talk about it just because if I don't let it out, then it'll just bug me, and that's just how I am, I guess. It's to my detriment sometimes, but that's all right. So yeah, I hope everybody had a good New Year, ringing it in with celebrations or just chilling, whatever you were doing. I actually gave my wife a trip for one of her Christmas gifts, and that was a trip to Las Vegas because that's kind of where we met. Not where we met, but that's where we went when we first met. So when we first got together and were first officially together, we went on a trip, and it was the first time for me ever being in Vegas. It was the first time for me ever being on a plane. Yeah, it was a lot of firsts for me. So it holds a lot of sentimental value just going to Vegas, and I know that's not a lot of people's. I guess. That's not the way a lot of people think of Vegas, but it is for me. So that's why I like going so much. I know a lot of people are like, damn, you guys go to Vegas a lot. Like from back in the day, we used to go a bunch. We took a big, long hiatus from doing it for multiple reasons. And then now over the past few years, we've been able to go again and make, you know, have a good time and just enjoy the city, enjoy being somewhat of a tourist out there. But I mean, we've seen so much out there that, you know, it keeps growing, new things keep happening, but it's still fun, and I don't get tired of it. I love it. I love being able to just mindlessly walk through a casino and sit down at a table or at a machine and just, you know, do some gambling. I don't like to gamble a ton, but when I go to Vegas, it's what I like to do. So it's fun for me, and that's what I like to do. And, you know, you get to have drinks and not worry about where you are or what you're doing. You just kind of do it. So that's what makes it fun. And like I said, that was our first trip together. We had a lot of fun that trip. She won the trip for work and took me with her. It was great. And ever since then, it was instilled in my head that Vegas was one of my favorite places to go. So, and it just got better after that. When we were finally able to make it happen more and more, we did it more and more. So, and that's kind of where we're at now. And hopefully it continues that way. We can take trips and, you know, just be able to enjoy ourselves. So hopefully everyone else enjoyed the new year. What's up, Justin? My boy in the chat there. Anyone else want to chime in? Feel free. The chat's open. I'm going to talk about a few different things today. You know, there was no actual events, no actual fights that I'm going to cover because I don't cover much more than the big events. So, and I kind of took a break because, like I said, I was in Vegas and I was watching, you know, highlights and headlines and stuff like that, but nothing was really going on that anybody would really know about. So I went ahead and said, screw it. And now I'm just going to wing it again, like I said. So let's get into that because there was a few things. Oh, shit. Thanks, Justin. I got this shit for Christmas, man. One of my daughters hooked me up with this hat. My family knows I love hats, and the Atlanta Braves are my team, obviously. I mean, I wear some Colts hats, too, because that's my football team. But if I choose anything to wear, it's most of the time an Atlanta Braves hat. And this one is quite a bit different than what I used to usually wear. Now I've been getting into the colored hats, thanks to my boy, Mike D, from the Technically Unsound podcast. He hasn't been on in a while, but yeah, me and him would kind of go back and forth with new hats. So this hat was pretty nice. I was happy that I got this one because I had my eye on it for a while and I just couldn't seem to pull the trigger on it. So my daughter actually got it for me. So it is pretty dope, and I like it too. So it's definitely one of my new favorites. But anyway, hopefully everybody had a good New Year, and Scott would love that one. Oh yeah, Will's a big ass Braves fan too, which is dope because, you know, I think we've shared that for a long time that he's big on the Braves. And I get back in the day we played baseball together, so back in the day the Braves were the thing for both of us, and he's been a lifelong fan as well. So, you know, shout out to Will because he's a fellow Braves fan, and I love it, and I'm sure he would like this hat. I wasn't sure if he was into any. A lot of people don't like the different color hats. So, but for me, I like it. I never used to be into it. I would like the original colors or the dark colored hats, you know, because that's all I was into. But, you know, I do this now, and I have a reason to. I have a little more of a reason to change up the style a little bit. So I got some shirts with some color in it. I got these hats now. I like it. It's fun and it's cool, and I really enjoy wearing hats. That's my thing now. I used to do it off and on, and now I do it even more. So for the podcast, I like getting new hats. That's my excuse. But my family hooks me up because they know. So birthdays and holidays and stuff, if they want to give me a gift, they know they can get me a hat, and I'll be happy as hell. But yeah, so good New Year for everybody. Vegas was dope. I got to go check out the Sphere. If anybody's seen anything about that, I actually went in and saw the show. It was pretty intense, pretty crazy, watching the AI robots as well out before the show started. And yeah, it was pretty trippy. So I recommend it. It's a good experience. Not something I might go to all the time, but I would like to see something else in that venue. That would be dope. And I know that the UFC has talked about, actually Dana White says he guarantees he's going to have a fight in the Sphere, and they're talking this year, probably September. So if that happens, I doubt I'll be able to go because it's going to be probably stupid expensive. But if I get a chance to, I'll go. But it would be dope to see a fight there, maybe a concert. But that venue's pretty sick, and I didn't know really what to expect. I had seen some videos on TikTok, videos on other social media, and I was intrigued. So I definitely wanted to see it. And I had seen the outside of the Sphere, too. We were in Vegas in October for my birthday, and that was the first time we got to see it, like, lit up and stuff. We were there before that, too, and it was getting built. And then we got to see it lit up, started, working, having the outside have all these different things that I'm sure everyone's seen. But dude, the inside's crazy as well. So go check it out if you get a chance, if you're into that kind of thing. But New Year's was great. We had a good time. Vegas was fun as usual. And I stayed in the Park MGM, which is right next to T-Mobile Arena where the UFC has the fights all the time. So, and my view out the window was straight up the big screen in front of T-Mobile Arena. So I'm just watching like UFC stuff come up every like fourth or fifth like slide that they do, every different thing and it's just UFC. Wake up, open the damn curtain, and I'm like, there it is. UFC all over the place. I'm glad I've been in there. I haven't seen a fight there, but I've been in there, and I was there for the press conference when I was there in July for the what was it? Damn it. Fan Expo. I couldn't think of the name. But I got to go into the T-Mobile Arena, so that was fun. That was cool. I got to see it. I just hadn't, I haven't seen a fight there, and hopefully that happens. I've never been to a fight in Vegas, so hopefully that happens in the near future sometime. But yeah, besides that, New Year, this podcast is going to be a little bit different than usual, different setup, different format. And I'm just gonna kind of wing it. I'm gonna do a little bit old school style. I never used to switch the scene and change screens to show all of the visuals. I'm gonna have a couple videos and like one still picture, but that's it really. And I'm just gonna talk about these things because these are things that have popped up in the news and things that I did want to touch on. And other than that, we'll get into a couple other little things here and there, but this might be a shorter one. I know I say that all the time, and then it winds up being an hour and 45 minutes. But sometimes I get going and start talking, so bear with me, I guess. Hang in there, fucking go take a break or something, and then come back. Oh, I unplugged my clock back there, and I had to plug it back in, and I didn't put it on the right setting, so it's flashing back and forth to some other crap. So hopefully that doesn't bug anybody too much. I will get that fixed. But anyway, let's get into what I wanted to start off with, and that is, so that if anybody's been watching any of social media, what's happening, what's going on, I don't know if you know Theo Vaughn. He's a comedian. He used to be on some shows with Brendan Schaub, but he has his own podcast, and it's doing pretty well. Ever since he started, he left doing everything else besides comedy, obviously, and he's doing his own podcast and focusing on that and putting forth way more effort than he was before. And it's grown big time, and he's out there right now. He's big right now. He's blowing up bigger than he was before. So he's getting a lot of attention for his podcast, which is great because he deserves it. He's a funny ass dude. Seems like a really good guy. And he's hilarious. That's what he does. He's funny. He's a comedian, but he's really good on a podcast. He's interesting as hell. And he makes it entertaining. So if you haven't seen it, it's called This Past Weekend. So go check that out if you're a Theo Vaughn fan or if you've never seen it and want to know what I'm talking about. But coming out of the reason why I brought that up is because Sean, he's getting a lot of people on his podcast. He's a big UFC fan as well. His favorite fighter is Dustin Poirier because they're both from New Orleans. So he's had a bunch of fight. I wouldn't say a bunch, but he's had a few fighters on. And this last podcast that he released was with Sean Strickland. And I'm sure everyone knows how I feel about Sean Strickland. So I was interested to see what was going to happen with that. And then I started seeing headlines and I started seeing articles and social media posts about it. The video hadn't been released, but people were talking about the fact that he got emotional. And, I'm thinking Sean Strickland getting emotional. Well, we saw him get emotional when he won the belt versus Israel Adesanya. And, I'm pretty sure he shed a tear or two there. He was definitely not his normal, just kind of dickhead self. So, you got to see a little bit of a break from that. But he is a real dude. I will say that. Compared to Colby Covington, he isn't that fake guy who puts out this character and persona to the media and out there to the public, and then he's a whole different person to everybody else in person. You know, that's not Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is who Sean Strickland is. But everybody, for the most part, has a different sides to them. And, you know, that's not being fake. That's just who you are. You have a different side to you. I'm not always the person that you see. I mean, I'm pretty real here on the podcast. Hey, no worries, Justin. Thanks for the support, brother, and thanks for, you know, checking out the podcast and interacting. I appreciate that. Just check out the show later. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with somebody. Everybody do that, please. But yeah, so, you know, everybody has a different side to them, whether it be a softer side, a crazier side, more outgoing side, or more anything. Everyone has different sides to them, and it's not being fake. It's just, you know, you're not one iteration of yourself at all times. Everyone has emotions, and everyone shows them different ways. So Sean Strickland showed a different side of himself when he won the championship. He was excited. He was happy. He was emotional. You know, like I said, he shed a couple tears, and that's not a way that we have seen him in the past. So he got way more emotional on the podcast, and it was a video podcast. You know, most people do those now. That's how this is. That's how Theo Von's podcast is, and a lot of people are doing the video portion of the podcast as well. So it's not just audio anymore. So you get to see when things like this happen. You get to see the raw emotion that people express sometimes when it's brought out of them. And Theo Von's not really one of those types of people that is looking to bring out emotion in you. Usually if it is, it's just joy and happiness and comedy. Like, it's comedy. He makes you laugh. So that's usually what you see coming out of people that he's talking to. But he gets a little real sometimes, and he does it on his own as well. And he gets, you know, pretty raw and emotional about some things. So, but he doesn't seem to be the type to want to bring it out of people on purpose. You know, it just happens. And that's what he did here with Sean Strickland. So I wanted to play some of the video because, and I'm hoping I don't get a copyright on me or something like that. I mean, hopefully, hopefully this will push through, because I think it shows what I'm trying to express here. What happened with Sean. I've said it before. He had a fucked up childhood. He's expressed all of that. He's talked about all of it. It's not a secret. He grew up hard. Like, it was a hard life for him, and I can't do anything but believe him. I don't like the dude very much, but, you know, he's showing a different side to him that makes me feel like if maybe he got through some of the shit that he's been through, maybe he could become less of that kind of shitty person that I feel like he is, or that people perceive him to be, because of the things he says and the way he portrays himself or carries himself. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do, was get into this video and talk about it a little bit, because it's kind of one of those subjects, you know, a lot of people are talking about it right now, because it's just a surprise coming from him. But, you know, I had my own take on it. I did want to touch on it. I like Theo Von a lot. I listen to his podcast, and sometimes just things come out with him that you wouldn't expect, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and it's interesting, and it's fun to watch. So let's get into that after I take one more sip. And I will be, you know, kind of pausing in between there to talk through this video, but it is maybe like 5 minutes. It'll take me a little longer to get through it, just because, like I said, I'll be talking through it. But yeah, let's get going. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I got to move this way a little bit because of the way I set this up, but here we go.
So anyways, my dad gets on top of my mom. She says, like, I remember he said, like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to fucking kill you tonight. Maybe it's just rough sex. We don't know at this moment, right?
So he's talking right now about, he's explaining to Theo, because I listened to this whole podcast audio only. I didn't watch the video until later. But he's talking to Theo right now about his childhood, how he grew up. And basically his dad was a real piece of shit, and threatened to kill his mom and all kinds of stuff all the time. And of course his mom not of course, but you know what a lot of people do is they stick with the person hoping to get through it. Maybe they're too scared to leave or something, but he gets into it a little more here, but just for context, that's what he's talking about.
Under the bed?
I'm under the bed. So he starts strangling her, and I get out, and the only thing I can see is a guitar. I just fucking crack him in the head, call the cops, and then I run down the street, calls the cop, gets arrested. My dumbass mom bailed him out of jail.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, he portrays the whole thing as his mom being a dumbass and bailing his dad out of jail. Now, he did throw in there, if you heard in the beginning, he said, oh, maybe it was just rough sex or something. But, you know, and being a little kid, he's hiding under the bed because he's worried that his dad's going to kill his mom. That's pretty much what he started saying was he was always worried that his dad was going to kill his mom because he said it all the time that he was going to kill her. And, you know, he was on drugs and an alcoholic and stuff like that. And I guess that had a lot to do with it. But, and in the way his dad grew up with I guess his grandfather was like a crazy white supremacist guy or something like that. So that kind of shit got indoctrinated into his dad as well as him. But that's the kind of stuff he's talking about right now. But, you know, so he puts it all out there, and he's talked about his dad and the kind of shit that he's had to deal with before. But this was a whole kind of different story. It took a different turn. So that's what we're getting into.
Oh.
But it's like, I mean, even that, like, I mean, that was like, I wouldn't even say that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I remember like being a little kid, so I would always miss school because my dad would get home drunk, start drinking at like 6. He would get home at like 7 and like just be up until like 3 a.m, just like tell my mom, tell my mom she's a whore.
Yeah, so this is where he starts really getting into it, and this is what he's explaining. He's going to tell a story about school life for him and things that happen like that. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people have experienced kind of things like this, but this feels pretty extreme, the way that this went down. It sounded like it was an everyday thing for him, and he was just a scared little kid. And, you know, it takes a big person to admit to a lot of this stuff. So I give him props for that. And it's, you know, like I said, he's a pretty real guy. He doesn't hold back. So for him to tell this story is you know, just shows a little more of him that makes me respect him a little more. Like I said, I know I haven't shown much respect for him as a person, but sometimes you need a little insight to understand things, and he gives it here. So we'll keep going.
He's like killer, like, and I remember I used to like.
What a loser, huh?
Oh, piece
sorry
of
to
shit.
say that about your dad.
No,
But
he
that's
died.
fucking lame.
He's shit. He died of cancer. But anyways,
He's on a cancer now.
yeah, he died of cancer. Yeah, fucking, you know, hell.
Probably from the hate inside him building up. I hate to say that. I know
It-
it's your father.
he was just
I mean,
drugs.
it's
He
true.
lots of drugs, pain
Theo
pills. Why I don't do
always says
drugs?
things.
So I remember,
That
like,
makes
I used to
sense.
sit there and just kind of like hug my mom's leg in the kitchen.
Mhm.
You know, like we had this little nook, and she would like go in the nook, and I would just sit there like all night long, by like the feet of my mom, and my dad like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill you and this and that. And I'll never forget, like, he would talk about like burning her face with acid. And mind you, I'm in elementary school. I'm in elementary school, right? So like,
Damn.
So that's a lot of responsibility then you feel probably just to like take care of your mom.
oh yeah. No, he'd always tell her that like, if you cheat on me, and she probably was cheating on him. If you cheat on me, I'm gonna like cut you up and put you in a bottle of acid and bury.
Now imagine hearing that as a little kid in elementary school. You know, like I said, everyone probably has some kind of crazy traumatic like incident that happened as a kid, whether it be with your parents or with your friends or some stranger. But I mean, damn, sounds like this was an everyday thing, or at least more times than none, this is what was going on in his house. So you can see already he's kind of getting a little bit more animated about his emotions and stuff like that. So just listening to him tell this story is kind of weird, because, you know, sometimes people tell stories like this and it's almost like, not like they're bragging, but they're almost telling it just for the shock and awe of everything. And I mean, that's part of Sean Strickland, that he like I said, he's real. I'll say it over and over. This is who he is, and he keeps down that same path, and then you see it take the turn to emotional. And so yeah, we'll get there.
You. So now you fast forward this, like, I don't go to school. I'm up till 3 a.m. I know I couldn't stay awake in school. Like, so like I remember I was like in second grade, and I kept falling asleep at my desk, and my teacher took my desk away from me, and she made me like stand up.
So I mean, that's something too. Like, teachers don't understand what's happening at home with some kids, and some kids are too scared to tell anybody what's happening at home. So sometimes a bad kid may seem like a bad kid, but a lot of times that bad kid, I mean, we've seen it in movies and TV shows and stuff. A lot of time that bad kid has something going on with them, and that's why they are the way they are. They act out because they don't know what else to do. They're scared all the time, so they want something different. So they're either the class clown that's causing distractions and trouble. That's what a lot of comedians did. If you listen to any comedians on any podcast, you'll hear that a lot. Oh, I had a fucked up childhood, so my only way to escape all that was to be funny and laugh and joke. So that's how a lot of them are. And for him, you know, it seemed like he just slept and didn't give a shit what people said to him. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a little insight into what's happening with him.
And so I'm like, fuck you. Being a little kid, I just went and fell asleep on the ground. And mind you, like, the school system's like, oh, Sean, like, he's just a bad kid. They don't realize I'm up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, you know, late. I mean, fuck, dude.
It's hard to stay up late and learn.
Dude, I remember like laying in bed. Like, I remember I stopped believing in God, man. Like, fucking, like I had fucking, it's crazy shit, dude. Crazy shit, man.
Yeah. It's okay, man. It's a lot of that sad, dude. I used to be scared at night. Like,
so as you saw right there, I mean, the slamming down of the bottle is because he knows he's getting emotional, and obviously, he spills water all over it, and you could see the turn where, you know, he's trying to fight it, but obviously that hits on another level. So, and then right here you're gonna see, don't blame Theo. Theo's a comedian, and he gets a little uncomfortable situation sometimes, and he has to make a joke. That's just in his nature. That's how he is. So he does try to kind of make a joke and lighten the mood a little bit here, but you'll see that Sean, he's just tuning it out. Like, the emotions just take over.
I used to stand up. Like, I heard when I was a kid that, like, if you peed around like, animals could pee somewhere that other animals wouldn't come. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Huh?
Yeah, man, I got it.
Have you ever heard that?
Like, no response, really.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bud.
Now he's crying.
So, man.
And he tries to fight it.
That's all good, dude.
Theo's like, I'm sorry. He tries to give him time, and you'll see it just... I didn't believe
we don't
he
have
was
to talk,
crying.
man. I can just sit here with you for a minute.
I didn't believe he was crying when I just heard it, but then I watched the video.
Fuck, 6 seconds.
I can just sit here. We can just sit
Nah,
here.
it's all good, dude. 6 seconds. I just process it.
So, I mean, they just sit there, and it is awkward silence, but you can see Theo is uncomfortable in the way that he probably feels bad, because, you know, you wouldn't think that you're going to sit across from Sean Strickland and the person that he is and watch him break down crying. Like, and this bugs me for the simple fact that obviously it's pretty sad that happened to him as a kid. It's still no excuse for the way that he acts sometimes and the things that he says, but sometimes the way that you're brought up is ingrained in you, and it's hard to forget those things. So those are just I don't know what else to say except, you know, for me it hits on another level because the way that he reacts and the way that his mannerisms to how he's trying to hold back the tears and the emotion and all that, he says himself, his way to usually handle it is just to get pissed off and angry and be violent. But, you know, right here you could tell he's holding back. He knows that, like, this isn't the time or place for that. He's got real emotions happening. He doesn't know what to do with it. I'm sure there's things going through his head. The way that he handles it, the way that he sits there. I mean, I have a couple friends that handle things that way too. And so, like, he just reminds me of that. I know people that have like trauma, you know, from childhood and from growing up and doing things. So, you know, the shit's real. I've seen it face to face. You know, we all have a little trauma in us somewhere, but some people have it more than others. And when you see them break down when they're usually so strong or such a different way all the time, never show those emotions, it's tough to watch it. And you know, this is like, yeah, this is in it right there.
I think it's one of the hard things that people don't understand, like trauma, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes it just comes out.
Oh, no, dude. Like,
And he's got Theo crying now. And, you know, Theo's usually just a jokester and laughs a lot, but he does, like I said before, he does get into a lot of deeper issues, and he does he goes on a bit of a tirade about, you know, certain things and he feels passionate about. And so he says he gets angry too. He has anger issues in some ways. So, that's just one of the things that, and to sit here and see Theo crying too, man, it's like, holy shit. Definitely a moment. That's why everybody's talking about it.
Remember, I have a hole in my gum. Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to scratch my gum, and I have a hole in my gum. You know,
Just from being nervous and stuff?
nah, just anxiety, you know? Yeah, even to this day. Yeah. I mean, the day, dude, like, I'm a grown-ass man. I don't give a fuck. I mean, you could post this. I don't care.
Oh, dude, I don't have any.
No, it's all good, dude. I mean, it is what it is, dude. Like, it is what it is. Like,
And so right there for him to be like, you know, I don't care. I'm a grown-ass man. Like, you can post this. You know, he's thinking about it already. Like, fuck, people are going to see this. And you know what? I don't give a fuck, because that's the type of dude he is. Like, that's the type of person he is. He's just like, I don't give a fuck. Do it. And, you know, he's giving the permission because he probably likes Theo. He says it all the time, that the whole time throughout this entire interview, he tells Theo, I don't know if you're smarter. I shouldn't even say it, but he's like, I don't know if you're really smart or just really retarded. That's what he says like multiple times. But he's like, but I like you, dude. Like, you're cool. So that's how he feels about Theo, which is funny because, you know, a lot of people say stuff like that about Theo, but you know, he's kind of giving him permission to just like, hey, I didn't just fuck up this whole thing. Like, you can use this. And I mean, for him to have be in the frame of mind to think about that, to say that, and to be cool enough to say that and not be like, hey, you better not fucking use this, because he is a fighter. He's a scary dude, according to a lot of people. And him getting angry and doing the things that he does, like, you would think that that'd be the first thing he says. And fucking instead, he's cool enough to tell Theo, like, hey, dude, like, you can use this. Like, don't worry about it. Don't think that you can't, because it is a super emotional. And obviously Theo knew it, being that he was so quiet and stuff like that. So there's only a little bit more left here, but believe me, it's going somewhere, and I'm going to get into some other stuff about that has to do with this too.
people understand, like, when I talk about, like, oh, I'd kill a man, it's like, you don't understand, dude. Like, when you go through that level of trauma, like, you just view the world differently, you know? So it's like, I have a hole in my gum because I'd have so much anxiety as a kid, and I would just scratch my gum until, like, I mean, just blood, you know? And, you know, you're in pre-elementary school. You don't know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking A. I mean, I remember, like suicide, you know? Like, you don't even know what suicide is when you're a kid. When you're really talking about suicide, like being a little kid, like laying in bed, like, just, like, man, I'm done with this shit. You know, like, there can't be a God.
It makes me sad.
Yeah, it's fucked up, dude.
No, it just makes me sad that a kid has to feel that way.
Yeah. Like, that's what that right there got me when I was watching this, and I was just like, oh, fuck, I'm such an asshole, because I'm always talking shit about Sean. And to know that, and Rogan says it best when he says, you know, you stop hating people, or you stop having hate for people when you think about them in the way that he said when he had kids, he started thinking of people like everyone's a little kid. Like, everyone was a little kid at one point in time. So And that's something that, I mean, when you're emotional about things and pissed off and stuff, it's hard to think of those things unless you have the strong will of someone like Joe Rogan and people like that can turn things off and be able to tell themselves those things. But, you know, I don't have that. When I get pissed off, I get pissed off. And it's hard for me to think about that. But I am a lot more reserved than I used to be as far as that kind of stuff. But, you know, that's just a good point that I was trying to say was Rogan would always say, you know, I just think about everybody as a little kid because they're just, that's what they are. I mean, they just grew up, but they're still a little kid, and think about what this little kid went through or what they did or, you know, what their life was. And you can't think of everybody that way, I guess, for the most part. It's hard, but that's just one way to think about things. And so to think about him going through this and him talking about this, he doesn't seem like the type to make something up like this and put it out there and cry when it's not his thing. That's not the way he is. So, like I said, this is changed my perspective on Sean Strickland a little bit, at least. I still don't like a lot of the things that he says and the way that he acts, because he hasn't really come out with much since this, but he does say some things after this that you're just that would offend a lot of people. So it's still there, but I guess that's how he deals. I don't know, but we'll finish this up.
You know,
Yeah, so like
any kid,
whenever Dreykus goes on there and like he jokes about that shit,
right?
It's like, dude, you have no idea. Yeah, I mean, and this is like, as a comedian, you got to joke about trauma. Like people think like I joke about all this shit. Like, you know, as we're laughing, like you got to joke about it. If you don't, like, how do you process that? You know, how do you process that kind of abuse? So
Damn,
anyway,
that's
Yeah. So that's that about does it for that one. But yeah, it's crazy. Crazy to know that someone like Sean Strickland can outright talk about those things, and then to see the emotion come out. He couldn't fight it. You know, he tried hard, but it came out, and it is what it is. You know, that's the type of that's why he's in fighting. Otherwise, he said he'd be in jail for murdering somebody already. And you know, a lot of people say things like that, but somehow, some way, kind of feels like he would actually do it. He's one of those guys because he doesn't hold back. He says it out loud all the time. And the way that he acts, you just kind of, you kind of wonder if that's the truth. But here's the thing about all of this. You know, of course, you're going to get reactions. And, of course, you're going to get trolls. And, of course, you're going to get people that were like me who fucking absolutely hate him. And they're still going to talk shit. But for me, I can't. Like, how can I watch that and just be a heartless piece of shit and talk shit about him? You know? Again, like I said, I still don't agree with a lot of things he says. I still don't agree with the way that he carries himself. But I have a little insight now into why he is that way. And it's not an excuse, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say. How else are you supposed to react to something like that? Well, there is an opposite way to react other than the way that I'm reacting, and that's just to be a complete douche. And Henry Cejudo went ahead and gave us an example of that. So let's listen to what he had to say.
See what I'm saying, Sean? I hope you can come to the consensus to be able to accept the fact that you're in this game, bro. Like, learn how to play. Don't be that.
So there you go. Henry Cejudo. This is what he thinks of this. Now, unfortunately for him, he's a crybaby, and he knows how to pretend cry pretty well. I'm sure his baby mama has to listen to that crying quite a bit. Now I will talk shit about this because I think it's kind of fucked up, but there is a flip side to all this, and it does run back to Sean kind of being a hypocrite. But then again, people change. I don't know that he's changed because I could be called a hypocrite for going back on the things I've said. But let's finish what Cejudo's dumbass had to say here.
You can't, man. You can't. It's the same thing with Volkanovski. Volkanovski's showing his cards that he goes through anxiety if he doesn't fight. Like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, keep some of that shit to yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? The world doesn't need to know. See what I'm saying, Sean? I hope you...
So for me, I don't. He criticized Volkanovski for talking about the fact that he feels anxiety. He feels like a caged animal. He's not just his sanity's not really there if he's not involved in a training camp with a fight coming up. That's why he asked the UFC. He said, he just said it in passing in a post-fight press conference that he feels anxiety and stuff like that, and his mental state is better when he's preparing for a fight, when he's in a fight camp, when he has a fight coming up, when he has something to focus on. A lot of people are that way, man. Not a lot of people say it out loud. I feel like he had the balls to say it out loud. What else has Volkanovski done to make you feel like you want to be a complete dick about it? Like, so him talking shit about Volk pisses me off more than him talking shit about Sean, but it still pisses me off that he's talking shit about Sean and talking this crybaby shit. It's like he's on a podcast in an interview. Like, this is just something that came out. It's not like his main sole purpose for going on this podcast was to do this. King of fucking cringe over here plays this persona. Again, Mr. Fake Fuck. He goes out, the king of cringe. Yeah, because you're fucking cringy and annoying, and you play this stupid character, and it's fucking annoying. Like, it's just that person that acts out for some stupid reason. Maybe he has something in his past that's making him act that way. I don't know. But I don't like it. And I think his cringiness is way worse than Sean Strickland being vulnerable at some point in time and shedding some tears over the shitty childhood he had. That's not all he ever talks about. He's talked about it a lot, but that's not all he ever talks about. Mr. King of Cringe over here, he calls himself that. Self-proclaimed King of Cringe. Triple C. Cringy, cringe. That's how I feel about him, and I hate that shit, because I know, like, I've seen him talk to people. His voice is annoying. The way that he speaks is annoying. It really is. But I never really had anything against Henry except for the fucking cringe shit. I hate it. It's so stupid. It's a dumb shtick that he does, and fucking, I don't know. His antics are ridiculous, and I hate it. The whole that bullshit that he does. The fuck out of here. Nobody's scared of you, bro. Like, no, I spit all over myself because that's how dumb that shit is. But that's what he does. He puts his head down, looks up from it. It's like, come on, man. It is like a little kid. This isn't pro wrestling. But, I don't know. That's what he does. But here comes the part, the unfortunate part, that makes Sean look a little bad with all this. And so the biggest thing about the Dricus Duplessis, his little, he spoke about it in there, saying that Dricus doesn't understand where he's coming from or whatever. But, because Dricus said, hey, he claimed that Sean actually got molested sexually by his dad, which Sean's never said that. I tried to find if there's anywhere where he even insinuated that. And actually, the one thing he did say was his dad told him, hey, at least I never fucked you, which I talk about fucked up. Like, that's pretty fucked up. So for his dad to say that to him, but that's the closest thing to any of that. So I don't know where DDP got this stuff from, but he said that to him in the press conference, and that's why later in the night when they're in the stands sitting fucking one row from each other, they fight each other in the stands because Sean wasn't gonna have any more of it, and he Dricus hit a nerve. So that's one of those things. So he's talking about Dricus saying these things, but he's saying, hey, that's something that you crossed the line, basically. And I agree with him, but the only problem is you have this. He said, there's some things that are off limits. You don't really talk about a man's wife. You don't talk about a man's kids, and you don't talk about a kid being abused. These things are all off limits. I think the issue is, too, when you're a kid and you're made to be a victim your whole life. As an adult, you're like, never again, I'll fucking kill you. That's what Sean Strickland said. The unfortunate thing, he talked about someone's wife and he talked about someone's kid. He talked about Ian Gary's wife and kid because, Ian Gary's wife with the whole WAG thing, there was that whole thing going on in before the 296, before he pulled out of the fight. There's this whole thing going on about his wife writing this book about being a wag. She wrote the book about being a wag, a wife and girlfriend of a pro athlete. And basically Sean made a video saying, "Hey brother, I'm trying to look out for you. You need to get rid of that bitch. Like, she's just there to exploit you. She's just there to take your money." And then he said some shit about his kid, which wasn't nearly as bad as like somebody making fun of you saying that your dad molested you sexually. That's way worse, I feel like. But he still said some shit, so that's what makes him kind of a hypocrite. And I'm not trying to turn this around back to, I feel like he's a piece of shit. I'm just saying he made this statement, and then Ian Gary responded with how the tables have turned. You dish it out in the lowest, most vile manner, but can't take a pinch. Which I assume, okay, yeah, I see what he's saying. You attacked my wife incessantly and obsessively, calling her a pedophile. You claimed you were giving me advice before. Well, now it's my turn to return the favor. You should shut your mouth. And, that wasn't the full statement that he made, but that's the gist of it. That's basically what he said. And, because basically Ian Gary's wife is like 40 some years old and Ian's 26. So that's what Sean's saying is called her a pedophile or whatever. Like, yeah. I think he equated her to that because of the way that she portrays things and puts herself out there, especially with that book. And she said the book was a joke and it was a parody of blah, 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 satire or whatever, but it didn't seem that way. And she made money off the fact that, she made money and a name for herself off of this book. So it's a little bit of a different thing, unfortunately. But a lot of people have had some real fucked up shit to say about Ian Gary. I hate to say it, Ian Gary is being a hypocrite too. You can't talk about his wife and kid, but yet he went and spread all these rumors about Neil Magny, saying that he abused his kids violently because Neil Magny made one comment that got taken out of context. Didn't even have any. He said something like, "Oh, if that was my kid, I'd be whooping his ass for sure," or something. So I don't even remember the full thing. But Gary went on this tirade. They showed it on UFC Embedded. They showed the clip of him just being irate, just looking like a fucking just a crazy woke person that doesn't know how to control their emotions over this just horrific thing that was said. And it was a simple statement that really had no substance to it. It was an off-color statement that wasn't even that bad. Like, I don't even remember the full thing that was said. So this is just hypocrisy going around here. Everyone's getting too sensitive over the things that are being said. While I agree with some of it, I feel like the wife and kids should be left out of it. That's really how it should be. I mean, the family should be left out. You don't talk about some dude's dad. You don't talk about his mom. In the fight game, yeah, of course. The good thing is that they're going to get to fight. I don't know if Ian Gary and Sean Strickland are going to get to fight, but Dricus and Sean are going to fight. Now, is Sean going to play the game, the whole game of I forgive you? Remember that? Remember Logan Paul fucking telling that thing again. It just fucking annoys me because he's talking about how he wants to rip his fucking head off and put his fist through his face, but then he barely punches him, doesn't do much in the fight, and says it's because he couldn't fight emotional, which makes sense. That is the smart thing to do, not fight emotional, but channel that anger into the aggression in the cage or in the ring. So for me, I don't know. I just don't see it. So is Sean going to do that with Dricus, or is he going to really take that shit out on him? I don't know. Maybe it'll be a big mistake for him to do that. So in the end here, I just wanted to express the fact that I feel like a dick for the things I've said about Sean Strickland. Maybe I don't take them all back, but I do feel a little bad for him. And maybe that makes me soft. I don't know. But like I said, he reminds me of friends I have that have been through trauma different types of trauma that react that way and don't handle it as well. But you know, it's just something that kind of struck a nerve for me, like in a way that makes me kind of sad, really. So I kind of understand him a little more, and you know, I do get pissed off at the things he says and the shit that he does, but all I can say is I understand it a little bit more. But the hypocrisy is running rampant with all these guys. They're all getting butthurt about things that are being said. And all I can say is keep that energy in the cage. Let those fucking fists fly and let's see a goddamn fight, because that's what you're all here to do. So Henry Cejudo's being a little bitch because he's a way lower weight class. So he knows unless Sean's going to fight him in the street, which he might. So he might want to watch out. But I'm not saying that there's no way in hell Henry can not beat Sean Strickland, but they are in very different weight classes. And Henry Cejudo is known for his wrestling. Sean Strickland's known for his striking. And he doesn't get hit very often, so you might want to watch your mouth. Like I should probably watch my mouth too. But there's more of a chance that Henry Cejudo is going to bump into him somewhere than I am. And is he going to hear this from me? I don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll see that I said that I took back. Maybe not took back, but maybe felt bad about the things I said. I'm not saying I won't ever say anything bad about him again, but I will say that I feel like an asshole. And I give him props for expressing his feelings and being vulnerable and not just stop walking out. You know, he could have just got up and walked out and not let people see him that way. But he pushed through, and the podcast was pretty good. He didn't really annoy me as often as normal. So, Ian Gary's stuff though, I don't know, man. People are gonna go at Sean for the things that he says and the way that he handles himself. So I guess it is what it is. And Cejudo's just that type. So we'll cut that one. We'll cut that one off now. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was UFC 300. There's been a lot of fight announcements. You know, possible Leon Edwards defending his title again against I gotta remember, because now that I went through all that, I kind of forgot. Let me see real quick my notes. Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, because, you know, people were saying maybe it'd be Shavkat Rakhmonov, but Bilal deserves it. I feel like he does. There's been a couple of other fights announced. Bo Nickel fighting on that card. Aljamain Sterling going up and fighting Kelvin Kattar. So that should be interesting. I don't remember any other fights at the moment, but they still haven't announced that real big fight, that real big main event. So who knows what's going to happen with that. But, you know, there's news coming out. I saw something earlier saying about Dana White saying that he's going to possibly be announcing some more stuff for UFC 300 coming up in the next few days or next week. So, yeah, and then we also had an announcement from Conor, because remember last show I played the clip of Conor saying that his patience was wearing thin. He was talking about boxing Manny Pacquiao, saying that people in Saudi had ideas for him. But shortly after that, we had a post from Dana saying that he met with Conor in Dubai or something like that, and they talked and that they were going to figure something out. So Conor made a post saying that he was going to make his fight announcement on New Year's, and instead he did it on New Year's Eve. So he was a bit early on that, because it wasn't like it was, who knows, maybe it was New Year's wherever he was at that point. But yeah, he made the announcement, and I'm going to play that real quick because it's kind of a funny, interesting video. Here we go.
Hold it. Ladies and gentlemen, a happy new year to you all. I'd like to announce the return date for myself, the notorious Conor McGregor.
So, first of all, it's kind of a funny start to the video, because if you notice, he says in the beginning, here, hold this. Like, he didn't say, like, record me. He didn't say, he's just like, here, hold this. He gives him the phone. And then he, like, looks at somebody in the distance and kind of shoos him away with his eyes, like, Yeah, get out of here. And then he just gradually picks up a wine glass. Like, first of all, he's announcing his next fight, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm drinking. Like, he always is. But he just looks so out of sorts. It's strange. It looks like he's in a very fancy place, but he's wearing like a t-shirt that says McGregor Fast. His hair's all fucked up. Of course, he has a nice watch on, but that's it. And then later at the end of the video, you see that he's wearing shorts. So it's kind of weird. It's Conor being Conor, I guess. But here we go.
The greatest comeback of all time will take place in Las Vegas for International Fight Week on June the 29th.
So I thought this was bullshit because Conor does this a lot. He just announces shit and says, hey, this is the way it is. This is how it's going to be. This is what it is. But it's a lot of times it's like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? And did the UFC confirm this? Is the UFC on board with this? Because he's just off the wall shit. Well, he says it's June 29th for International Fight Week in Las Vegas. Usually International Fight Week's like the first weekend of July. Or even the second weekend of July. It's always in July. So he says June 29th, and I'm looking at the calendar like, well, that is a Saturday, but what the fuck? International Fight Week in June? I think Conor's full of shit. Then I hear the next day, finally, that he's not full of shit. That International Fight Week is actually confirmed for June 29th in Vegas. So it's like, what? Why? This is fucking weird. It's usually the first week of July, like I said, because it's International Fight Week, 4th of July. I was there last year. I don't know. So let's see what else he has to say.
Come a little closer. And the opponent, Michael Chandler. And the weight, Mr. Chandler, 185 pounds.
So yeah, I guess he's fighting Michael Chandler, as we all figured he would be. And it's going to be June 29th for UFC. I think that's going to be 303. I think. April, May, June. April, 300, May. 302? 303. I don't know because they might throw a second one in. Who knows? Like this past year, they had 2 in March. So, but they already announced January, February, March fights. January being Strickland versus Duplessis. February being Volkanovski versus Topuria. And then March being Sugar Sean versus Chito Vera. So they already have those. So unless they put another one in March, I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, June 29th, International Fight Week. That's when Conor's coming back. But the other thing that makes me wonder about this, obviously, we all thought Michael Chandler. That's what we've been waiting for. That's what the fuck was been supposed to have been happening. It's been prolonged for so damn long. But yeah. So the only other thing that throws me off, 185. Now he said that if you watch The Ultimate Fighter, it was one of the biggest clips that made rounds. Was him walking in circles, pacing, and Chandler just standing there like this, talking to him, and him and Chandler going back and forth. And he goes, and he tells him, you know, we'll do it at 185. And Chandler goes, you want to do it at 185? We can do it at 185. And he's like, you'll do what you're fucking told. So, yeah. I mean, this isn't the first time this has come up, but I would have thought 170 for sure. Like, Michael Chandler was pressing for 170, saying, fuck it, I'll fight at 170. They're both supposed to be fighting at 155. That's really the true weight class. But Conor's been fighting at 170. Chandler says he'll go up to 170 easily. But 185, dude, I don't see that. I don't see it happening. And I don't know that the UFC will go for that. But then again, they put Nate Diaz and Conor at 170. I didn't think that would happen either. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what happens. So those are like the biggest announcements really that have been going on. The biggest news that have been going on. You know, Conor's been on this tirade about being patients wearing thin and the UFC is not wanting this or that. And nobody knows for sure if it's Conor, if it's them. Who knows? But it's going to be almost 3 years since Conor fought last by the time he fights Chandler. So let's hope it goes through. They're not going to put him on UFC 300. It's not happening. And I've heard rumors from other podcasts and other people saying that the UFC has something up their sleeve that they're trying to put together for a hell of a big, crazy, big draw for a fight. And it's not what you would expect at all. Apparently, Jorge Masvidal saying he was unretired has nothing to do with MMA and fighting in the UFC. Nate Diaz said fighting in UFC 300 would be cool, but there's no one to fight. Dustin Poirier's already shot down the fight with Nate Diaz, and basically has said nobody's wanting to fight him. No Conor and Chandler. That's not till June apparently now. So I don't know what they would put together. Masvidal says he's unretired. Jake Paul put out there that Masvidal's boxing Nate Diaz, whatever. Call me when Dana gives you permission. So who knows? Maybe that is happening between Masvidal and Nate. And then I heard something about Justin Gaethje possibly fighting Masvidal in the UFC for a possible, BMF title, because Masvidal being the former BMF and Justin Gaethje being the new BMF. But, I mean, it's kind of already been confirmed that Masvidal's not going back to the UFC right now. So, who knows? We'll see what happens. Let's wait for that news. Let's wait for that UFC 300 news, because that might give me next week's content. So, hopefully that happens. If not, no big deal. We do have a preview for next week for UFC Vegas, fucking blah, 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 whatever fucking number they're at. It's a fight night, though. I don't remember exactly what the card is, because I've been disconnected from the card stuff since, all the holidays have happened. So, yeah, that about does it. I'm going to keep it there. We're a couple minutes past the hour. Shorter podcast, like I said. The only other things I was going to really touch on was just podcast stuff. And really at this point, I feel like this is the best spot to end it. We got some MMA news. And we got into some deeper stuff. I don't know what I'm thinking for the year, but I worked on my background stuff. I need to figure out this camera issue. I saw it flash a little bit today. Not too much though, but yeah, the holidays are done. The long weekends are over. It's full weeks of work now. So back to the grind, back to the normal kind of weeks, week in and week out of prepping for the podcast, doing the podcast, podcasting with the other guys. Technically Unsound podcast goes live Sunday and Tuesdays. So just go to Technically Unsound podcast or technicallyunsound.com or Technically Unsound. Yeah. Anyway, go to the Technically Unsound YouTube channel and like and subscribe there. Hit that notification bell. You'll know when we go live. Sundays and Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Arizona time. Yeah, and we're usually on for about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. It's about the same as what I do here. And I, DJ Tommy, DJ Magix, and then sometimes my brother-in-law Christo. Mike D was in before, hasn't been in a while, but he's got some little ones that he's taking care of now. So who knows? Maybe he'll come back this year at some point. But go check out that podcast. We talk about a lot of technical stuff, a lot of podcast stuff. But if you want to hear me talk about other things than MMA, the guys will ask me questions here and there, and I will give a short preview of what's going to happen for that week's Going Rounds podcast. But most of the time we're talking about pop culture stuff, things that are in the news, maybe political things. We get into some controversial shit sometimes. A lot of tech talk, though. And, yeah, it's fun. So go check it out, Technically Unsound podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe here as well. Follow all my social media. It's going on down there. All show, it's been up there. So check it out. Going Rounds podcast everywhere except for X. It's Going Rounds pod. Go to Spotify. If you're not able to jump on YouTube, you can watch the video there or just listen to the audio. Yeah, follow me there. Download, everything like that. And then you can find me audio only anywhere else you get your podcasts. Wherever you stream your podcast, you can find it. And if you can't, let me know, and I'll get it on there because I'm pretty sure I can do that mostly anywhere. So I release it every day, every night after I get off of the live podcast. I, upload the audio version and the version to Spotify. So it's usually there, I don't know, within the hour after I'm done with the podcast being live. So yeah, that's enough of the rambling. Thank you for all the support this past year. I hope to continue to grow the channel. People jumping in the chat, I love for sure. Justin, my boy from way back in the day, he hits me up every once in a while to talk MMA. I appreciate you, man, for jumping in. I know he's not here right now, but if he goes back and finishes listening, shout out. And thanks to my wife too for reminding me about things I'm forgetting in the chat. And I just appreciate everybody for the love and support I've gotten for this podcast, and I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep it running. I'm going to try to keep it interesting, try to keep it growing, and try to keep it fresh and change things up whenever I can. So tune in to see what I got for the rest of the year. I'm going to throw that thumbnail up tonight too. I don't know how I forgot that, but I did. So yeah, check me out next Thursday, 7 p.m., same time, same channel. Till then, I'm out. Peace.